greatest career anybody could ask for. I mean, Thanks, I was telling them in there, like, last year, 3 out of my top 5 movies you were in.
Oh, that's cool, man.
It was great. And my daughter absolutely fell in love with you last year because we watched, like, you know, Looper and The Dark Knight Rises and Lincoln, and she was like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the greatest. Like, he is the greatest ever.
That's nice.
Although, obviously, she can't see this movie.
Right.
Please leave that behind.
But I was actually just talking with your publicist in there about this movie. I love this movie, and I love how very open it is about, you know, like, guys and pornography and girls and, you know, the way that they are with romantic comedies. And so I'm kind of, you know, wondering how much of this, you know, like, came from your own experience and who you know, and, you know, what did you draw from for this? Because, I mean, I can think of a million people that are so similar to Don John, and the same thing, you know, with Scarlett Johansson's character. So,
yeah. Well, I think it's very, very, very much based on what I really see in the world.
Right.
And it started as I wanted to tell a story about how people sometimes treat each other more like things than like people, and how media plays into that. And it probably does come from the fact that I've worked as an actor since I was a kid, and you know, actors do sometimes get treated kind of like objects on a shelf more than humans.
Right.
But I don't think it's just actors. I think everybody experiences this. We have a tendency to pigeonhole each other and put each other in boxes with labels. And I'm sure you've experienced it, where you're talking to someone, you can kind of tell they're not really listening to me.
Right.
They already have their idea of what they think I am. And sometimes those ideas of what they think you are comes from TV or movies or magazines or the radio or newspapers or even pornography. And so that's kind of the beginnings of where the story came from. And so I thought that a comedy about a young man who watches too much pornography and a young woman who watches too many romantic Hollywood movies would be a funny way to get at some of those questions.
The way that the movie kind of makes something that is conventional, because the movie feels like a conventional comedy, but it's like I was telling them, it so is not, because of the content. So the content feels like something that we may relate to in reality, like the kind of stuff that I talk to, you know, people about literally on a weekend basis when you hang out with your buddies. It's a pretty normal thing to talk about this stuff.
Sure.
And when you see it on the screen, you go, like, I've experienced there. But it's never talked about in movies, unless, like he was saying, it's like a really serious thing.
Yeah, something kind of dark and artsy.
Right. And so the fact that you took it serious and made it like this kind of conventional comedy about something that is so non-conventional is what made this movie so fantastic for me.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted it to be, because it's a movie that's about pop culture.
Right.
So I wanted it to enter into pop culture. I didn't want it to just be something that kind of metropolitan cinephiles would see. I wanted it to be in the mainstream and seen all over by the you know, the people that, by everybody, by people
Right.
who are watching just mainstream movies and lots of pornography and you know, television shows and Carl's Jr. commercials, and that's
Which Carl's Jr. Was that an original Carl's Jr. commercial?
That's a real Carl's Jr. commercial.
Okay, I don't think I'd ever seen that one. That scene was so hilarious.
Yeah, that's a real commercial. They have lots of those commercials.
I've seen the one with Paris Hilton or whatever, but I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
I know this is kind of that pedestrian question, but because you've worked with so many great directors, was there any particular like influence that you had from any one of those directors that maybe you applied to this film, or was there some things that you picked up when you were on the set?
Yeah, definitely.
Certain people.
Well, the year before we shot Don John, that was the year that I shot all 3 of those movies, Looper and Dark Knight Rises and Lincoln, and so I certainly was paying a lot of attention to what Ryan and Chris and Steven were doing. And all 3 of those guys were really encouraging. One thing I noticed all 3 of them have in common is their ability to balance a strong plan with the ability to be spontaneous. All 3 of them do their homework. They don't show up saying like, well, what are we going to do today? They show up like knowing what they need. But then when something new comes up, whether because, shit, the plan isn't going to work, or someone, whether an actor or DP or somebody comes up with a new idea, they were able to be flexible, and then knowing when to be which, whether to stick to your plan or move on to the new idea. That's right at the crux of, I think, a director's job, because you come up against that decision all day long, and all three of those guys had a really strong balance, and not every director does. Some are too rigidly attached to their sort of their plan and what they thought the movie needed to turn out like, and some are don't have enough of a plan and are sort of just hoping to find it on the day, or hoping to find it in the editing room later or something. But all three of those guys, I thought, really struck that balance, and I think that's a big part of why all three of them are great.
Have any of those guys seen this yet?
Ryan has seen it. Chris and Steven have not yet.
Well, they're pretty busy.
Yeah, they are doing Interstellar. Ryan really likes it. Well, Ryan was the first guy that I showed my first draft of the script to, and he saw a couple of rough cuts along the way and gave me feedback, and then just now he saw the finished one. We just had a cast and crew screening, and he saw the finished version, and it was really great to show it to him. He was really proud.
That's awesome.
And thought it was really funny. It came together really well. That means a lot to me. He's a dear friend of mine. Rom, who produced Looper and Brick, produced Don John, and Nathan, who did the music for Looper and Brick, did the music on Don John.
It's like a family thing.
Yeah. Wade, who pulled focus, Dale, who operated camera, Pavel and his sound department are all from Looper.
Awesome. It's just kind of the thing. You grow to really like different people's works, and you start to work with them more often, and that's so cool that you decided to integrate them into your process.
Absolutely, man, and it's such a collaborative effort making a movie.
Oh yeah.
Having written and directed and acted in it, certainly a lot of the attention goes to me, but this would not be what it is without a whole ton of people, whether the cinematographer Thomas or the production designer Megan or the editor Lauren, or there's so many great artists that I've worked with and collaborated with on this movie, and would not have been able to do it without them. They contributed so much every day, things that I hadn't thought of it that way. Okay, good, let's do it that way.
Right.
That happens all day.
Right, but don't think that you don't deserve the attention you're getting for this.
Well, thanks.
Because you really do. I mean, I'm especially in the Julianne Moore character, once she comes in, further towards. I mean, she comes in the film, but she becomes more important in the third act. She is kind of like, for us married people, the twist, where you figure out, oh, well, this is what sex is like when you're with somebody and you care about somebody and you love somebody. And that is, I love the way that the dynamic of it is that, oh, well, he's kind of likes porn is preferred to everything else, because it's literally like I can get on there and I can get whatever I want. Mm-hmm. And I read articles recently about kids who literally, by the time they have sex for the first time, it never lives up to the fantasy of what they get online. And you really tackle something serious here in that light manner. But the Julianne Moore character is the key, because she comes in experienced, married, widowed, and she knows what it's like to really make love. And that changes him. And I love that that's the dynamic of the film, that it's not about whether they get together. It's not about whether he gets back with Barbara Sugarman. It's not about any of that. It's about him learning to love the act of having sex, and that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Good. Well, that you nailed it. You nailed it. Spoiler alert. If you say all that in your article, make sure you put a spoiler alert.
I'm sorry about that.
No need to apologize. I'm so glad that it's that it came across clearly like that, because that you articulated exactly what we were going for.
It certainly does, and there's so many different things. I mean, even the repetition of the film is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because most films, when you do it and it's repetitive, it doesn't, you kind of go, oh, this is repetitive. But you're tackling the idea of the repetition of life. Mm-hmm. And I love the way that you did that. Was that a conceived in the screenplay, that it was going to get that, repetition of life there?
Yeah, definitely. That's how it was written. The scenes that are in the movie are the scenes that are written. There aren't other scenes that got deleted. That's what it is. I definitely wanted to structure it in that cyclical way because partially because I think that's how everyone's life is.
Right.
You know, the Earth is revolving around the sun, spinning around. You know, so that's how it goes. But also especially a character like this who's sort of stuck in a rigid mold and routine, and stopped asking questions a long time ago. It's just like, this is what life is. I just do it. And I think there's a lot of strength in routine and regularity, but there's also a necessity to, I think, always be checking in on why. Why am I doing this again? You know, is there a good reason for this? Or like maybe I should change it a little bit. Or, you know, I think that's an important part of any routine, and that's lacking in John's life at the beginning of the movie, and hopefully by the end he's beginning to sort of show a bit more curiosity and pay attention to what's in front of his face instead of just assuming that it's the same, that it is what it is, and it's just it's that object on the shelf that I consume on a regular basis.
Right. That's awesome.